Buongiorno e benvenuti a questo nuovo webinar di Associazione Amarcord che quest'oggi si tiene in un orario particolare perché stiamo parlando anche con la British Columbia dove è ancora mattino presto, perché il nostro ospite quest'oggi è Renzo Caron, avvocato, nato in British Columbia, al momento residente in Ontario, e Renzo ha una storia particolare. Vorrei introdurlo. Io sono Gianpietro Nagliati, sono il segretario di associazione Accord e siamo qui appunto, scusate un problema tecnico, con Renzo Caron. Renzo Caron è il Justice Director di questa in particolare First Nation dell'Ontario settentrionale, di cui lui poi ci parlerà. Ma Renzo, come diceva, è nato in British Columbia, per la precisione è nato a Kamloops, ed è figlio, come abbiamo detto nel manifesto che ha presentato questo webinar in maniera un pochino scherzosa, del Veneto e delle First Nations, perché suo papà è immigrato a Kamloops, British Columbia, dal Veneto, e sua mamma è emigrata a Kamloops, British Columbia, da una First Nation dell'Ontario, che è quella poi cui ora appartiene anche Renzo. Renzo quindi è cresciuto in un ambiente molto particolare, al quale potremo aggiungere un altro tassello di cui poi parleremo. A Kamloops c'è sempre stata una comunità italo-canadese, nonostante non sia una grandissima città, tant'è vero che la Colombo Lodge, di cui Renzo è stato in passato presidente, è uno dei più antichi club italo-canadesi dell'intero Canada. Poi ha fatto il suo corso di studi, eccetera, è diventato avvocato, è un avvocato che può praticare in British Columbia, qui in Ontario e in Alberta, se non vado errato, Renzo? Renzo, mi senti?
Buongiorno, buona giornata, buongiorno.
Stavo dicendo, tu sei un avvocato chiamato che può esercitare in British Columbia, in Ontario, e la terza provincia, scusami, non mi ricordo.
My Italian has a little bit some shortcomings, Gianpietro.
Yeah, so you have been called in the bar of British Columbia, Ontario, and I'm sorry, I don't remember the third province.
Alberta, British Columbia,
Okay.
and Ontario.
In Ontario. He has been covering different positions inside First Nations organizations, even at the national level. And he met, by the way, with Pope Francis when the Pope visited Canada. And he has now taken up to himself the position of Justice Director of his original First Nation here in Northern Ontario, because he told us is a way to give back to his own community. Am I correct, Renzo?
Yes, you're very correct, Gianpietro. Grazie.
So let's go personal, if I may. Who is Renzo Caron? How does it feel to be born at the crossroads of Veneto and First Nations? How was your life and feelings in Kamloops, where you were growing up, you were children, a teenager, before you made your choices to pick up this role as advocate for First Nations?
Gianpietro, it's been quite a journey, but mostly started being raised in an Italian upbringing. My upbringing was quite Western European, Italian, particularly religion being a very important part of my life. The Catholic faith has been very important to me, continues to be to this day, and I believe that's where much commonality has come with my parents, as far as the marriage of my parents and what attracted my parents to each other as far as the faith. I think that's very foundational, and it's something that's very alive when I was younger growing up, and it's very much alive right now. Where I am in Sagamok right now, I'm in the Sagamok Community Justice Office. It's a bit quiet today on a Saturday, but not far from here, there is a parish, St. Raphael at Sagamok, and they have Mass on Sunday mornings. And yeah, the church is very important to me, just as it was to my parents and continues to be to this day. And I reflect on my upbringing, although I wasn't exposed to much of my Anishinaabe Ojibwe background when I was younger. As a young adult, I became more acquainted and passionate about learning about my roots on my mother's side, as far as where my mother came from, Ontario, making her journey across the country as a teacher, started to teach in Seasheld, and then made her way to Thompson-Nicola area near Kamloops. And my father making his way from Castle Franco Veneto on a ship. As I've, with much interest, heard the story several times as far as his journey, and coming to Vancouver, learning English, working hard for two or thereabouts years in the blacktop business, learning English along the way, and making his way to the interior, meeting my mother, and starting a family. And my mother, much generosity and very I guess generous is the important thing, but something very unselfish is that she gave up her teaching to raise myself and my two brothers and sister. My mother, she foregone her teaching career at a time where she had a wonderful career ahead of her. But I'm mindful of that, but I'm also grateful for the time that my mother was able to spend with myself and our siblings as far as our upbringing. We're very fortunate. We had a strong family rooted in the faith, but also time. My father working hard, and my mother working hard also as far as preparing meals, and in a nutshell, that's where it started. And education has always been an important objective for the family, and it's helped all of us advance quite well. And but it's only part of the picture as far as our education, our career, and that's something I learned at a young age as far as who I am. And unfortunately, my Indigenous culture was something I wasn't exposed to. No fault to be attributed to anybody. There's no right or wrong there. It's just a chance to be raised in an Italian upbringing, but there was a missing piece there as a youngster as far as my Indigenous side. And when I come back and think about it, it was a difficult time when I was growing up as far as prejudice, discrimination, and it's still there. It's good that we've advanced quite a bit right now, not just in the last 11 years or so since the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, but just with generational changes of thinking, and changes of looking at the relationship between Indigenous people and the Europeans and other parts of the world, because it's not so much just the Indigenous and the French and English. We have other cultures, and I'm really pleased to the role that the Italian culture has taken in Canada. And I'm not far from Sudbury, a very strong Italian culture here, not far from Sault Ste. Marie. If I were to drive almost a day towards Thunder Bay, strong Italian culture there, and from Kamloops. And to be here, to be raised in an Italian upbringing and Indigenous upbringing also, what a privilege I have as far as this strong history in Canada with the Italian community, and the work that needs to be done ahead as far as improving the relationship with Indigenous people. And it's happening. In my short time here, things are moving forward. The relationship is.
And this is very good. This is very good to hear. But I have to stop you, Renzo, because I don't want to put too much topics on the table at the same time. So let me go back for 1 second to your parents, if I may. You gave us the idea of the background where they came from, but in the end, it was a love in Kamloops. If I got it right, they met the Catholic parish, and they never left each other again, right?
Yes, very much so.
And if I know that this is quite maybe a little bit. First of all, Renzo, if I touch topics that you think are personal or so, just say so, and forgive me. I ask you to forgive me if I say something that you think it's beyond the scope of this interview. But anyway. We have to say it somehow. Your mother was teaching at the residential school, am I correct? Or did I misunderstood?
In Kamloops for a short while, yes, I understand that, yes.
And when you say that she decided to give up teaching to bring up to bring up your family. How much was this difficult? Because when we met outside the webinar, you also told me that your mother was very proud of her own instruction and being the first one from family to be able to teach to others.
Yes.
So how did she live this? How did she share this decision with you guys, and how do you think she felt it for herself?
I can't speak for my mother, of course, but I hope she's close by on this webinar, perhaps watching. But her sacrifices have been made, but I believe there's much joy, and I don't say that very lightly as far as what that means. It's a sincere, it's more than happiness, but it's a joy as far as what she's done, how she's contributed. But even after the formal education side, my mother continued to work part-time and took some other jobs along the way, so she still was involved. But and also with my father, the entrepreneurship side of my father, which is very much a part of my lifestyle, and also with my youngest son. I think some of that runs in the family quite a bit too, as far as hard work, entrepreneurship, and just the family. And part of that is a husband and wife working close together and as a true partnership. And my mother worked quite closely with my father, and I observed that as a young person, and was fortunate to observe the happiness of my mother, perhaps not teaching per se in that capacity, but working with my father and helping with the business side of it, as far as the paperwork. And there's much work that was done and continues to be done to this time. Fortunately, they're slowing down a bit. I hope so. They're enjoying their retirement, but they continue to be a partnership, and that joy is very much alive. And I don't know if that answers the question, John Pietro, but those are the thoughts that are going through my mind.
I just have a couple of questions about the past, and then we come right away to the present and what is happening now after the Truth and Reconciliation. So I would like to ask you, first of all, what was the relationship when you were growing up, generally speaking, between Kamloops and the First Nations that live in the same territory? Was it close? Was it there was beyond your family? Were communities close together, or more everyone living their own life in parallel, let's say?
We were raised more in the city, but the Kamloops band, the Kamloops band is adjacent to Kamloops, and it's part of Kamloops now. It's very much joins the city, and we weren't, at least I can speak for myself, but I wasn't particularly part of the community growing up. We grew up on the other side of town. A lot of there's a couple of Indigenous friends that I grew up with in high school, but I didn't have much connection. Unfortunately, we played sports. We didn't have, there wasn't much exposure. I guess quite minimal, which is it was a different time. Just the just my immersion and acquaintance with the first, Tk'emlúps was minimal. But from my father's side, there's quite a bit more, and it's best coming from him. But nevertheless, as a youngster growing up, I see much relationship building with the work my father's done some 60 years or so, continues to this day to do smaller jobs with the Tk'emlúps band, small repair jobs, and the recent monument that he constructed in front of the residential school in November. But why I'm sharing that is that relationship is not so much myself, but it's more my father, because of the number of years working in the community as a stonemason, bricklayer, building and constructing items, structures that are quite permanent and quite well built. And over the years, those relationships forged as far as who to call. And my father forged relationships with the leadership at the Tk'emlúps, and I think that's really a good thing. And I'll just use that generally because there's many leaders that my father's worked with, either the chiefs or councillors or other senior individuals at the Tk'emlúps. And I think that's a lot to be said about the relationships that have been built that are continuing to this day, as far as working together. And it's hard to capture that, but it all amounts to relationships. And the picture that's on the screen right now, this is an example of something that I can share. Not so much of what I when I was younger and observing through my father, which is much contributed to my knowledge as far as Kamloops, whether it's the Italian Cultural Center in Kamloops and otherwise. But here's something in the last year. I've been with Sagamok a year now. Last week was my 1 year anniversary here. I still live in British Columbia, but I commute once a month. This picture's from April 25th, and quite an important picture because the people visiting Sagamok here are all judges of the Ontario Court of Justice. There's 6 of them there. Very pleased to point out that Gilma Toulouse, the chief of Sagamok, is also in this picture. And another picture here, thinking about speaking today and invited to this webinar with Jean-Pierre Cho and everybody. This picture came to mind as far as the monument that you just saw. And that monument is located at the front of the residential school in Kamloops. And this is from last November. It's relatively recent. And my father and some help, I think Luigi, from what I understand, and other helpers there, and obviously equipment there because of the big stonework there. But that monument is something that my father was asked to construct. And I think my father's in a better position to share the story, but I can say that the reason that was built into Kamloops, and it was my father was contracted to do that work, is because of the relationship there, and that relationship's taken a long time to build. And you have a meeting of the residential school per se, and also the European side, Italian craftsmanship, stonemasonry, which we don't see very often today. True stones, not cultured imitation rock. Those are real. That's real rock, and it's really heavy. It's very durable, and it's a sign of our culture. So I think there's a lot of symbolism there as far as the foundation, the rocks, the care, the craftsmanship, and also for their school to be in the background. So much going through my mind as far as the symbolism there. What does that represent? And I think to everybody, it'll represent different things, but I think it represents, to me, relationship, positive relationships, solid, and also representative of the strengths of the two cultures. There's Italian side. There's other strengths towards the Italian people. With the World Cup on right now, I'd like to say it was soccer. Unfortunately, we don't see Italia in the World Cup, but we have stonemason, we have other gifts and talents as Italians, and one of them is stonemasonry, and on the other side we have the residential school. It's not a particular, I wouldn't say something that Indigenous people are happy with as far as residential school, but for that school to be there, it's representative of the strength of the Indigenous people, and from what I've learned, also the perseverance of the Kamloops people. I can only speak as an observer. I'm not from there, but from what I've learned, is that school it represents courage and strength to and perseverance to move past the past, but also to not be afraid of what that building represents. There's some other schools in history which they no longer exist. They've been burned down and or demolished. But the Kamloops structure still is there. We've seen the background of it. You've probably seen it on TV, in the news. However, that's something I like to share as a citizen. Although I'm not a member of Kamloops, but as a citizen, I can share what I've learned being in Kamloops is the strength of the community there as far as moving forward, and they're moving forward, and I admire that as far as the progressiveness, and I think that needs to happen. And for again, I'm getting a little bit more personally. This is only my thoughts, but I think that's necessary to advance, to move forward. Is to have that foundation, and I think we see here. We see foundational. We see the objects there, their materials, but I'm thinking about what it means to the people, the Italians and the Indigenous people, and it might be a bit of grandiose to say that, but I think it's not too imaginary. I think it's there, and I think it's going to last.
So, what was the residential school when you were a teenager or so? I mean, were there voices, rumors? Was it a place where? How was it felt in Kamloops? Because if some of the stories, that happen in there. Is it possible that no one ever heard anything or so? What was the climate about the residential school so before everything came out with the work of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission and what happened in 2021 or so? How was when it wasn't a national issue?
Again, Jean-Pierre, it's a difficult area to comment on because I'm not from there. So as I'm speaking, I need to be ever so respectful of the Kamloops community, and I'm really an observer there. But I can say it's the progressiveness. Some of the work, I work with some people from Kamloops who are in the outlining area. And one gentleman, I was visiting the museum. There's a museum at Kamloops there, off to the side of the building. They have a museum and many old pictures. And some of them were from the residential school classes. And one of the gentlemen I worked with in the area, he showed me a picture, and he was a young boy in the picture. And I can't comment personally, but from stories of someone that I worked with and sharing the stories with me, they had it was a difficult time, as it was for many, and I can't really answer the question other than to say that what's been shared with me seems to be quite amazing as far as strength and just strength and wherewithal, I guess, strength and wherewithal, and just courage. Those are things that are coming to my mind. I know those are just words, but when I see the pictures, and I wasn't there, of course. I never grew up with that. I was raised in I say this in a more privileged upbringing. I wasn't exposed to some of those hardships, and in some cases traumas, and I didn't suffer that. So it's difficult to answer that question, but as a I can almost look at things from a non-Indigenous side. So just thinking about the balancing of the cultures and presenting information about growing up with an Italian father and an Anishinaabe mother is very much a mixture of balance. And I think that, just to reflect on what you just asked me about growing up and what was my observations, it was very much to the degree that I could see. It might be a bit of a leap because I was young, and I look back and I was like every other person my age. I didn't know very much. You think you know a lot as a youngster, but I didn't know very much, and I was quite ignorant. And I'm not ashamed to say that I was quite ignorant, but that's the way it goes, and I've come to accept that, and that's part of the reason why I've journeyed to Sagamok, and why and before I was in Sagamok, I was in Thunder Bay for 9 months commuting, and that's part of, I call it a journey to understand a bit more about, and I'm still trying to understand what you just asked, John Piercho, as far as that relationship, what happened. And it wasn't just because the Truth and Reconciliation came out, although that was important some 11 years ago. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done with that, but at the same time, much has happened, and it has been, continues to be, I believe, a strong catalyst for continued movement in that direction as far as improving the relationship. And with time,
let's stop 1 second, Renzo, because that's exactly where we were going. Because while growing up in Kamloops, after growing up, you went to university, you became a lawyer, you set up your own law office, but then you decided that you had to give back to your original community. Why this decision? What brought you to be involved in the First Nations movement, if I may say so, in the fight for truth and reconciliation? Why did you decide to do that?
It's a tough question, but I'm glad that you asked it. It's a journey, John Piercho. I just continue to be on a journey of trying to contribute. I come from before law, though. I came from a social work background. I've always been a helping person. People that know me will share that sentiment that I've always been a supportive individual. I've always been a helper. Probably law may seem like an area where I'm probably not a very contemporary lawyer, as far as if you were to think of a large law firm. Sure, I could fit in. It just wouldn't be for me. I'm a very community orientated person. I'm a person-centered individual. Social work values just flow through day in, day out, how I meet people, what people will remember of me, and I think that's the way that's who I am. I'm not going to change. And I'd like to put back. And we all have our abilities. We all have what we're born with, what we can do. We have limitations. I'm getting to that age now where I kind of understand what I can and can't do. And with the time left, this is something that's through my mind. How can I contribute? And I'm happy and blessed in many ways. My children are grown up now. I'm at a stage now where I can learn more about where I came from, and it really goes down to a life journey, John Piercho, and everybody listening today, is that we just want to learn where we're from to the best degree we can. And in my culture, what I have learned is that to understand where we're going, we need to know where we're from. And I feel so blessed that I've been able to come here and to meet the people along the way, the Italian community, John Piercho being one of them. The interview that John Piercho worked on with my parents a few years ago, but also just recently the visit, and those relationships. I'm not just saying that just for saying it. it's an important part of the journey, and I have an inclination that where I go next, this will factor in quite a bit as far as where I go next, because I am traveling quite a bit to Sagamok, and I don't know whether I can stay here. I was raised in British Columbia, and that's where my home is. Although I'm from here on my mother's side, it's a very difficult. Some people have traveled. They may have answers to what I'm talking about, but it's something I need to figure out myself. And I really feel blessed that I could come here and learn about where my mother's from. I certainly hope I've helped as far as service to the community. I've learned a lot, and if I'm blessed with further years here, there's much more work ahead I'd like to do. But
Renzo, a lighter question, because we have talked about the work that you are doing. So, but I would like to stop you another second to ask you this on a lighter tone. What are the reaction of your relatives on your mother's side, your uncles, aunts, cousins, or so, in having an Italian cousin or relative? Did you teach them how to cook pasta?
No, I've shared with them. I've shared quite a bit. Again, a balancing act. When I'm in Sudbury, the food where I'll take a drive and I'll go enjoy some Italian food, or I'll go to the Italian delicatessens there, and I know several people there. I have nice conversations. They know me by name in some locations, and it's a joy. And I share that with the people I work with, and some of them have gone to Sudbury, and they've even mentioned where they're from, and they've been asked if they knew me. And I haven't been here that long, so I'm just I feel very flattered in some respect that some of the Italian businesses that I visited, the relationships that I've cultivated there, I suspect those I would like to continue, and I hope I continue to visit Sudbury in some capacity. And I'm just sharing that because it's an hour away from where I am, and it's something I share with the people I work with, and some of it's, if I could use the expression, rubbed off on them. I think it has in a positive way. They're inviting to that. They're receptive. They don't see it as anything alien or anything. They're happy. It's new. I don't think there are, because of the strong Italian community in the area. There's quite a few Italian names. So there are people that work with Sagamok that are Italian. So they may not be from Sagamok, but we have many non-Indigenous people working with Sagamok. Some of them are contractors, etc. But strong Italian community, and I like to be able to connect with those individuals, and some of them we have nice conversations. And I think it complements the working environment also to have that bridge. And I think that's something, once again, where Sagamok is. There's also a strong Italian history here. Sudbury's not that far away. Very strong Italian community there. I've never been to the cultural center. Excuse me. I very much would like to visit the center, learn more. But I've spoken with other Italians that spoke of the center. I know at the Colombo Lodge in Kamloops, one of the doctors that moved to Kamloops is from Sudbury, and he shared about the cultural center in Sudbury. So these things are going through my mind right now. And the other parts of Ontario, I've been to Sault Ste. Marie again. I mentioned Thunder Bay. I miss those areas because of the strong Italian presence. That's quite amazing in Thunder Bay, but also the Indigenous community. I miss walking down the street. I miss speaking with people on the sidewalk. I used to catch the bus when I was in Thunder Bay. I left my car in British Columbia for a while, and I came out and I commuted. I wanted to just live in the community, and I miss those days, Jean-Pierre and everybody, as far as just mingling with the Indigenous people. They kind of knew I was a city person, but that's okay. But they were very respectful, and I miss that. Whether it's someone someone asking for $1 on the street, stopping to talk with somebody. I miss those days. Or it could be a successful Italian business a business person I speak to, and the conversations there, being able to speak and relate to both cultures. I think it's a very strong advantage and one of the reasons I've been able to adjust out here. With that, I don't think if I had that, I think it'd be difficult. I think it'd be difficult, perhaps. I think it would be difficult, and I like to share with everybody that with the Italian Indigenous culture, I feel so fortunate as far as the blending with the work ahead. the growth of Canada as far as just the relationship side. It's improved, and I'd like to be a part of. I'd like to be a part of that continued growth. And I know in my short time here, I've seen some improvements I didn't think I was going to be able to see. And I know my mother, from the time she left Sagamok, late 50s, coming out to British Columbia as a teacher, I know so much has happened in my mother's time, and I'm blessed she can see this still. And I'm glad that I'm able to come here, and my parents to see that I came here. So it means a lot as a son for me to come here, and for my mother. And I know my parents are proud, and their family that is in Sagamok, they're proud of me to come here too. I know that they're proud, and I'm very grateful to connect with them. And I'm going to be catching my breath here for a while. I'm still with Sagamok, and I hope I can continue, but I'll be catching my breath for some time because of what I've learned, and it's going to take a while to sink in, and hopefully that's something I can share later. I hope, again, I'm counting. It's almost like I'm counting days here, but I hope I'll have time and I can share this. Hopefully, there's already another. If I could share with everybody, there's a young lawyer that finished. She's not a lawyer, excuse me, but she's a law graduate. 2 years ago, she graduated from UBC, and I connected with her about 2 weeks ago, and I think she would like to become a member of the bar here in Ontario. And if I can contribute to that and help someone else bridge the gap from growing up in another part of Canada, and with my background, if I can help that person become a legal professional, I don't think it gets more personal or more important than that as far as contributing. And so this I share with everybody. I think there's that potential there as far as the community, hopefully engaging others to come back. And the community is growing. Sagamok, I know, John Pietro, you've seen the growth in the community here. They're building.
Yeah, you were mentioning that while we were visiting, you were mentioning that is at the first, perhaps concrete results of the work of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, the agreements read after that with the government. And so are things really happening now, finally, in your opinion, for what you know, will these communities finally being brought back up where they deserve to be?
It's moving in that direction, John Pietro. It's progress is being made. Just mindful of what's happened in the past. Much call things as they are: harms, disadvantage with the relationship with the government, with the Indian Act, and restrictions placed on Indigenous people, but also to break free from those constraints gradually, slowly, and to build up your community. It's happening, and it's going to take a bit of time. I'm sometimes mindful of it. It took some time for things to get not good. It's going to take some time for things to get better, and it is happening. And with the building of houses, building of some of which you observed yourself, I gave you and your wife a tour of Sagamok, Jean Pietro, a little while ago, and you saw the new community hall that's being built. You've seen the education that is focused on in Sagamok, the Dobbin Elementary School, the Elders Home, the picture that was shown earlier with the judges with North Shore of Lake Huron behind us. That was taken behind the Elders Eagle Lodge, which is extended or not extended care, but assisted living residence. Quite a facility for the elders as far as retirement home. Just growing healthcare. It's a community that's growing quite a bit. Paved roads. I remember coming out as a young. The first time I came to Sagamok was mid '70s, and gravel roads, and it's come quite a ways as far as now paved roads, and it's just probably sidewalks in the coming years. It's growing, and continued education, but also, I guess, moving back to the relationship side, improved relationships. That's with all partners, and also with the corporate side. We have a fledgling Sagamok Enterprises Industry. We have a fledgling corporate division. They won a national award a few weeks ago. So Sagamok is really focused on, building itself up and really being able to become as self-sustaining as possible in the emerging business environment that's wasn't around much. It wasn't that long ago where so much restrictions were placed, but now things are opening up. Robinson Huron Treaty with a couple of years ago with the annuities matter settled. There's opportunity for some growth as far as being able to build some things. And with that, on the other side, there's also the challenges of building capacity. There's one thing to be able to build things. You're going to have people to build those, but also there's going to need to be people to operate those facilities. And so with that is the added challenge. And one of the things that I've been able to observe, to come here to see, and to observe and to learn, but also to hopefully identify where more help is needed. And perhaps that's why I'm enthusiastic about if I can meet another a young legal person that's either in school right now, which I understand there's someone in Thunder Bay going to law school, a recent graduate that I just met. There's other lawyers, and we're starting to connect, and I think those are the things I was thinking about contemplating as far as coming this morning to share. Those are some of the things that I was contemplating as far as what is it that I'm trying to do? What's your mission? What is your goal? And to just try to be as best as one can be, but at the same time try to relax a little bit. I'm known to be a serious individual, but I need to also I do try to lighten up sometimes, but a lot of it is just who I am, and I hope today speaking, I hope this has been helpful, and hopefully it's made some sense to everybody. And I'm really pleased that Jean-Pierre spoke some time about asking me to consider joining the group, and perhaps I may continue to observe and perhaps subscribe. I'm very interested. And
but besides, thank you, Renzo. But don't you are doing interesting and worthwhile things, and that's why we're happy. And it's an honor to be able to talk with you. I wanted also to ask you, in this work that is done after the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and so beyond the construction, the processes that are starting, and so, do you think that these two Canada are finally really beginning to understand and respect each other, which was something that we dearly missed for 10 years?
I have my thoughts, Jean-Pierre, and everybody, about the progress, and in some respects there has been progress, but in some respects there hasn't been. Just thinking about the calls to action in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, in some areas there has been some tangible movement, measurable movement, and there's calls to action in various areas. Some of the listeners today may be very much aware of these, but one that I can speak with is justice related. There's calls to action as related to justice, and in some areas there's quite good movement. And when I say quite good movement, it needs to be reasonable given to what can be done in a period of time. And 11 years is quite a bit of time, but much has been done with justice as far as the educational faculties, the different law schools, their contribution as far as curriculum Indigenous content. There's more content in your legal education now than when I went to school, and also even with the justice system, those that are already lawyers, the requirement for lawyers to have education in Indigenous history and culture. I think it's really important, and so in some respects, there's advancement made. It's it's difficult. I think it's just I didn't have. I guess coming into the call today, I didn't think too much about that. That's almost like another conversation. But how can I just sort of say is there's been some advancements made. They're measurable, but it depends. There's some areas that haven't been touched upon, but a lot. I think it'll need to move at a course that is it's based on all the participants, and by I mean all participants, I mean the federal government, and there needs to be that willingness to move in areas. Some of these areas require resources. So, but some areas have been moving, like the museum, National Museum for Reconciliation. There's been some measurable progress made, but there is room for other areas, and it's just a matter of tracking that. There is a website. Excuse me, I don't recall. Could have prepared information, but there is a website that actually tracks how the calls to action are being progressed upon. So please excuse me, I just don't know what that website is, but there's kind of like a watch site that monitors the actions, and it'll show how far the different calls to action are advanced. So if there's a takeaway for today, as far as a further resource, I just would like to be able to perhaps later I could forward that website to Jean-Pietro, and that would more tangibly answer that question as far as the progress being made. And from that, that's what's going through mind. Just not able to. It's been a little while since I looked at that website, probably about a month or so. But I just learned about it. I was reading an article, and that website was referred to, and I thought it was very helpful as far as monitoring the progress. And some of the calls to action, they haven't been moved on, but some areas there's been movement. So I want to balance the not so good with the good, and it's going to take a bit of time. I just don't want to. The more I talk, I'll probably repeat myself, but it's going to take a little bit of time for some of these. And there's it's just like never-ending challenge, I guess. Patience. One of the things that what's going through my mind just thinking about progress and some of the challenges I've alluded to this afternoon is patience. It's tough to do work in this area, particularly legal, working with the Indigenous community, with the challenges justice related, with all the disproportionate statistics as far as Indigenous people in prison, and children that are being apprehended by child protection in comparison to non-Indigenous people. There's just vast disparities, and it's difficult. It's difficult doing this work when you see the patterns, and but it's important to stay positive. This is what I would tell a youngster, if someone was working with somebody, if I was to assist somebody, is just to encourage them to be patient. And
sorry, Renzo, battery problem.
I know it might sound, I don't want it to sound trite or anything or too simplistic, but patience is very important. And one thing I've learned about in my culture, my Anishinaabe culture, is that patience is something. It's an important cultural side, as far as a strength, as far as things will. What was I told when I was younger? Things will happen when the time is right, and I'm not qualified to make such a statement or to be an authority on something like that. But as far as philosophy, as far as Indigenous teachings, an elder told me that once about progress and about about patience and just to sometimes we need to be mindful of that. As far as some of this might even be, we go back to Italian philosophy. Marcus Aurelius, for example, like if we were to look at philosophy, we'll worry about those, and I tell this to my clients, worry about those things you have control over, and those things you don't have any control, can't control, do not stress yourself. So if I were to sum it up, if I were to take my own advice more, like about things like that, I would have less gray hair probably, and I probably would have less stress. But I just thought I'd share that with everybody, and I'm kind of smiling as I say that, but it's so true. And I never thought I would think about, quoting Aurelius on that, but much is similar with indigenous culture as far as those, I'd call them tenets, as far as patience. And in order to be patient, there needs to be some philosophical approach as far as how we think. And again, I'm not an expert in this in any way, shape, or form, but how we think as far as how do we adapt to challenges, whether it's a battle or a conflict or something that's not working. We need to be in the right mindset. We need to be relaxed. We need to be focused, and we need to. And it's an Italian trait. It goes back a long time. Other cultures, I don't doubt also, but also on the indigenous side, there's philosophies, and I think there's overlap, and even with I spoke earlier about the Catholic Church and how it's the faith has been so much a part of my life. It continues to be to this day, but also indigenous faiths, and there's the indigenous beliefs as far as the Creator and the different directions and the spirituality of indigenous people. There's quite a, and particularly recently, I never thought I would see this, but some of the listeners today might be aware that there's been quite a flexibility with the Catholic Church to adopt and to absorb and adapt to indigenous culture and to have that become part of the church. And thinking about Sagamok, and I'd like to share with you, I don't think there's anything wrong to share, but the church in Sagamok, and I've seen also in Thunder Bay, there might be others, but not many in Canada, but there are some in the Catholic churches. They are adapting to there's native symbolism in the church. For example, in the Ojibwe culture, a turtle is very spiritual, and feathers, and we see some of this symbolism on the altar or on the walls, and even sculptures in the church. And there's also the acceptance of the leadership of the church, the bishop, the local bishop for this area is from Sault Ste. Marie, and I've spoken with him on occasion, and they make their way to Sagamok. So even though we're a bit isolated here, sometimes the bishop makes attendance here, and I just want to say there's that. And again, it's a relationship. Things are changing. So, and I think if we're on the topic of reconciliation, I know it's personal, but it's so real and it's so important. It's very foundational, like the stonework we saw earlier in the monument. It's
So I cannot avoid this question. In September 2021, there was a press release that went out from Kamloops, and obviously it stirred the national drama, national events, and so the press release about the unmarked graves. I'm not going into the fact of what happened after in these 5 years, so I just would like to ask you, what did you think when you heard that news? What was the reaction in the Caron home?
It wasn't, we never talked too much about the news about that event. We talked as a family, and we observed what happened. There's been some discussions, but you had mentioned earlier there might be an area where it might be difficult to speak about, and I think that's an area where just it's difficult to share with everybody those observations. But what I can share is that it was concerning as far as what's happened there. But what I can share is that we have learned from some members in the community, not many, but I can share is that they were aware that there was some graves there. So again, this would be one of those matters where you speak to one person and may say something, and another person may say something else. But that's something that came up in. Hopefully, it's okay to share that. But that's something that came up in a family context, was discussion there as far as the different relationships that we have with other people in the area, and what was said. And so it's not something I heard firsthand or anything, but it's something that is from a reliable source. If I could share that, I think there was an older person in the community made comments that there was they would know, if they were there, they would know the stories, and that's what we're learning right now as far as the history. And I can't really comment much more as far as there's other schools in Canada. I'm thinking about British Columbia, and much of this is available. I guess with the Truth and Reconciliation report, it's quite lengthy, but there are summaries in there about the stories, and there's different schools, and there was again, I don't want to talk about history. This can be something we can all learn on ourselves. There's resources available, but there were quite a bit of fatalities in the schools, and that's something that came out as far as malnutrition or just illness, that's factual information from the reports, and that's something that's going through my mind right now. Is just it was difficult, and some of the schools, again, there was different sides to circumstance, different parts of the country, the organizations that ran the schools. It was different. I know that's a difficult area, and I know it's also not appropriate to share much aside, except that a lot of this information is available, and it's something that registers quite harshly with me as far as just knowing that harm being done, and just particularly to vulnerable people. It's something that it's registered with me ever since I was quite young, particularly in the legal profession, representing individuals that have done harm to vulnerable people. It's something that's always been hard for me to address those matters. But as a younger adult, I began taking cases more difficult to, I guess, to prove to myself that, although there's not necessarily a need to do that, but to show that you have a bit of backbone, but I don't think that should be the measure of somebody's strength, as far as just the fact that they can, represent people that have done something that's not very appropriate, very nice. And but again, principles of justice. I need to, and I do stand by that as far as why I became a lawyer. As far as justice, those that are accused, they need to be heard. They have a right to face their accuser, and they have a right to a trial. And it goes back to the Bible, and that's something that resonates with me on a day-to-day basis. And I just thought I'd share with everybody that it's with that mindset we approach the challenges, and and each of us, many of us, there's many viewers today from different backgrounds. I imagine those attributes perhaps resonate with each of us in some way, shape, or form, as far as how do we deal with challenges. We need to have the fire inside us, the passion and the commitment, courage to do what it is that we do, particularly in the face of challenges when it's difficult, because things don't work out nicely all the time. And listening to myself, sometimes I sound like an uncle, so please excuse me. It's generally my approach when I speak with people, or if I'm sharing ideas. I don't mean in any way, shape, or form to be sounding like an uncle, but it's just like share that with you, that if I sound like that sometimes, it's just something I it's a bit unique, and no one's told me that, but I just sometimes I might sound a bit like an uncle, and just thought I'd share that with you, and hopefully that doesn't sound too silly.
So Renzo, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
We went long because I was so interested in your answers that we didn't have the time to talk about the Italian Canadians in Kamloops. It's already 2:00 and we should close the webinar. So this will offer us an excuse. Why don't we organize another webinar with you, but maybe we can involve some persons from Kamloops, from the Colombo Lodge, and we will talk about the Italian Canadian community in Kamloops, past, present, and future.
I would be very interested, and thank you for suggesting that. Thank you.
So Renzo, for now, I really wanted to thank you because you shared a number of quite interesting things, and I hope that the information passed to our viewers is useful to try to have a closer look to what has been happening in this country with the First Nations and all the problems, but we hope the hopes that now are growing up. Is there anything else you would like to add before we close the webinar? Is there anything I forget to ask you that you think it's important, it's relevant to this conversation?
Well, the important thing is I want to thank you, Jean-Pietro, and for those attending today, and to emphasize that what I'm sharing is my thoughts and my opinions. I don't speak on behalf of Sagamok Anishinaabe, so I think it's important to say that I'm attending today as in my capacity as Renzo Caron, and hopefully I never made anybody feel uncomfortable today. Anything I spoke about, but if any way, shape, or form, if I made anybody feel uncomfortable today, I ask to excuse me, and I just want to thank everybody. It's been a pleasure to share, and it's a privilege. I'm very thankful, and for your time, and I wish everybody a safe day, and have a good rest of your weekend. And I'd be happy to share about the Kamloops Cultural Center, and perhaps even my father and other members, maybe they could get involved. And my involvement with Kamloops, the Italian Cultural Center, I'd like to share with everybody ever so briefly, is not because of who I am or what I've done. My father has a long relationship, as I shared, some 60 years as a stonemason bricklayer in Kamloops, and it's really through my father that I've been welcomed into the Italian community, and they asked me to serve at the Colombo Lodge. It's not because of anything I've done. My father, his reputation speaks for itself, and I've continued to have some big shoes to fill. And I just want to share with everybody, it's because of my father's reputation, and I hope and I trust I've served the Colombo Lodge well, and I will continue. I have to resign from the executive because I've worked out here, but I was the treasurer most recently. I resigned when I came out here, and I look forward to serving at the Colombo Lodge again in the future. And once again, thank you all.
Renzo, thank you very much. Thank you for being with us, and we organized to talk with the Colombo Lodge. For now, thank you to you. Thank you to the persons, to the viewers who followed this webinar, and Associazione Amarcord webinars will be back at the end of June. Thank you very much, and Renzo, ciao.
Ciao. Prego.